Hi all, Joshua Steger here from ETFadviser.com.au, and time for our weekly review of what's happening in ETF markets and markets around the world. So it's been a big week at that and really good for ETF investors, and some of our key ideas really moving this week for subscribers, which is a good sign. So the big thing this week, and we spoke about this last week, was oil. We're going to watch oil and see what that did. If there was increasing tensions, certainly oil price was going to go up. It's done the opposite and gone down. So things seem to have settled down, and gold as well now. So gold selling off, bit of kind of a this was a kind of a safe haven trade, and then that's kind of sold off, and that money's flown back to kind of momentum names. And we've got the Nasdaq and the S&P 500 at new all-time highs. As it closed on Friday. So that's pretty exceptional considering the size of this pullback, rebound, and now you've got new all-time highs. A really solid week there for the Nasdaq, and the S&P not as strong, but at new all-time highs as well. So that's a really good sign for markets. I mean, it's still like a V-shaped rally, but we probably do have quite a lot of institutions underweight this market and maybe forced to buy. So that's probably the near-term catalyst for momentum names, and they could certainly still push the next couple of weeks. So we'll be watching for that. Aussie market's not as strong, so it's not a momentum market. You can see there's the high, and it's kind of just settling in. It's probably not unlike the euro at the moment. So you see, that's kind of euro's topped out, going back to kind of mid-May, and now it's just been chopping. So did find support where it needed to, and but just needs more time, and certainly isn't a momentum market, and that's where you want your money at the moment. So just having a quick look at another key change this week, and that's been copper. So copper, you can see it's been forming the space. It's been quite junky, but just the last couple of days pushed out. You can see a lot of green bars, which suggest and good volume buying at that. So buyers are certainly coming into this name. There's a big kind of weekly base here. You probably wouldn't mind a bit more time, but we'll see. There's the previous highs, and if it could start to push, that would be really interesting for the Aussie market as well. So we're going to perhaps get a spread or a kind of a move out of just gold, where the money's been for resources names, and we might start to see a bit of money move into base metals. So copper's certainly going to be the start of things, and that's certainly a good sign for the Aussie market. We might actually get some rotation into, say, small cap. So this is the small cap index in Australia. So we'll see how that plays out, and we'll certainly be watching copper. That's going to be a bit of a leading indicator for what happens, because I think about 25% of the small caps index here in Australia is resources names, and it's not just gold and silver stocks, or precious metal stocks, which have been the big winners this year. So that's going to be something we're going to be keeping a close eye on. BHP and Rio got a bit of a bounce from really oversold levels, so that's a good sign. BHP up against that resistance there, that 200-day moving average, and then you've got Rio a bit lower, but a good day, we'll take it on Friday. So that's a good sign of some buying after a really quite a terrible kind of month and a half for Rio. But in terms of what's interesting to us as ETF investors, we're starting to see we've had some good breakouts this week. So we'll just have a quick look at some of those. I think Asia's one we've been talking about for quite some time. So in terms of Asia, the key growth markets are going to be India. So here we've got the Nifty 50, and you can see we've been talking about this for quite some time. You can see like that really nice kind of base structure that we'd identified, and it's chopped around there for a while, but then momentum's back into the market, and this is a key momentum market. So really happy with that. I think there's probably the next point of resistance will be up around these levels for the Nifty 50, top 50 stocks in India, and then we've got the top 500 stocks, and that looks much the same. Probably a bit more exciting. There'll be more growth names in the top 500, but you can see really we've been watching this for a few weeks, and we got that move that we wanted to see. So there's probably, I think, about 4% more upside to previous highs. Then you probably expect a bit more work, a bit more consolidation for the market before it can get through that. But I think there's a really good long-term future for the Indian market, just in terms of their economy is really growing, and this is just a gift in terms of having this consolidation at the right time. Then you've got risk on momentum, and that's going to be a key growth market for the future. The other key market, which was really interesting, we've had our eye on for the last few weeks for subscribers, has been Asia. So just reiterate that the way to play Asia is certainly not China, the Chinese market. So this is the China A50, top 50 stocks in China on the mainland. So you can see that is kind of still stuck in a base, and actually was down on Friday. So it's really not doing anything. You're not going to get much of a move out of here. But where the action has been in Hong Kong and the Hang Seng. So just looking at the Hang Seng market here, and you can see setting up really nicely. We'll zoom out on the weekly here. I might actually change that to a monthly just to give you a good idea of exactly what we're looking at here, just in terms of a really good bottoming kind of pattern. So there's kind of the breakout point. There's your base, or what you'd say like a cup with handle, and it's just trying to make its way out of there. So that looks really constructive, and this looks like a key growth market for the future as well, because Hong Kong isn't just Chinese stocks, it's also other stocks around Asia, but it's a really buoyant market this year in terms of the number of new listings, and we'll actually have more new IPOs in terms of value than the US this year, and that's for a market that's pretty much been uninvestable for the last 5 years. So really exciting, and this is just the perfect kind of setup. And what we'll be watching there, we've had a few names that we've identified for subscribers, and hopefully they've got full positions in one of them. In another is still in the buy zone. But what we'll be watching this week is if Alibaba, their big holdings in Hong Kong, and particularly in the tech space. So if Alibaba and Tencent, so Alibaba looks really quite constructive, and the kind of you kind of got like this kind of constructive, almost coming to a point here, kind of setup. And I would say, it's either going to go this week or next week, and it's going to move one way or the other. But hopefully it'll move this way. We've already got a precedent for that as well, so I'll just show that in a second. But Tencent is actually looking a bit better, and it's exactly the same. Might use a straight line to give you a bit more of an indication, but you can kind of see just how it's kind of been compressing. And I would say, it's certainly possible that Tencent can move out this week. And the precedent for that is Xiaomi Corporation, which is kind of like the Apple of Hong Kong, Apple almost Tesla as well. And this was exactly the same pattern just a couple of weeks earlier. So you can see, or draw this exactly the same kind of compression lines, and you can kind of see how there's the tariff correction, and it's just rallied and just compressed, and then it's popped about 8%, was up even more this on Friday, but actually so that was on news that their latest electric car had something like 200,000 pre-sales in 8 hours, and really moved the stock into new all-time highs, and then got a bit of selling. But nonetheless, this is a multi-billion-dollar company. It's up kind of 8% out of this point. And we've also got Tencent and Baba in exactly the same positions at the moment. So I'd probably say Tencent will be the next one to move. And you can just see how that's compressing. I'd hope, we're probably almost saying, midweek that it could really get going. And then Baba, if I draw the same kind of trend lines on this, you'll see this one's probably due to take a little bit longer. So maybe a bit further into not next week, the week after, but that's what we're watching. If these do get going, I think there's a lot of people who are underweight the Asian markets, and that could really get going, and certainly would be the catalyst that would push the Hong Kong index much higher. So we've already got some key ideas for subscribers, and yeah, I think that's really exciting. So we've got India, we've got Asia, and we've also got some key kind of momentum names outside of that. So Hack is one that we've been speaking about, and that was kind of a bit of a surprise because I thought it was going to take a bit longer, but that's pushed out nicely this week as well into new highs there for the ETF. So or the ETF listed in Australia. So that's one still kind of in buy zone, but there's it's probably a lot of upside there for cybersecurity names going forward as well. So semiconductors, this is NVIDIA and the like. That was another big mover, so a bit of a surprise this week, but it was risk on, and it pushes out. So just on the weekly base, probably feel like it might need a bit more time, just given that V-shaped rally, and might need to consolidate a bit around here. But that looks really interesting at the moment as well. So semis, and then also you've got kind of AI. So AI is certainly back in favour, and that's a key theme for the future. And we don't have any AI exposure in Australia, so you're going to have to get it from ETFs. And there's some really good names out there at the moment. So Robo's probably a little bit early. You can see how deep this correction was, and there's your little bit of consolidation that it's popped out of just this week. It's probably going to have a bit of resistance up here, so it'll be interesting how it deals with kind of the 80 to 85, 86 zone. So we'll see how that all plays out. It's probably a little bit of time to accumulate that one, but that's really interesting. And then you've got this is a new one. So this is AI infrastructure. So AINF is the ETF, and it's AI infrastructure. So because it's new, it's kind of a bit choppy. But I'll be watching this really carefully, and there'll be a way to kind of play a couple of these names to get a really good exposure to the AI theme. And I think that's just going to be the key theme for the next 5 or 10 years. And this AINF is actually not just doesn't have NVIDIA and the semiconductors. It doesn't have a lot of the names that are in Robo. It's got kind of the materials, it's got the miners, it's got the electricity providers, got those kind of aspects to it. So that's AI infrastructure, and that's kind of the picks and shovels to the AI theme. So I think that's going to be really exciting. Another key one to look at, and I think everyone's pretty interested in at the moment, or has been for quite some time, because it's been a really huge performer over a long period, and that's Bitcoin. And this, what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks, is that this is kind of the, it was probably the first mover and a really strong mover out of that tariff correction, got into new highs kind of mid-May, and then it's kind of threatened to go. This was kind of the sell-off here with when it was risk off, and then it's since recovered, and it actually looks really good here. So there's going to be a couple of points of resistance that it needs to move through, but this is a bull flag that's playing out here. So if this starts to get going, I mean, I think the upside's really quite significant, probably talking 150,000 plus, and in a pretty short space of time. So definitely worth watching. And why I am quite interested in it is because one of the big movers in the US has been Coinbase. So this is a big holding in the crypto ETF in Australia. So Coinbase, out of nowhere, into new all-time highs. So it's up about 40% just in a week and a half. So there's clearly something going on in the crypto space. So that's something to keep an eye on, and that's why crypto CRYP has moved in Australia. So that's whenever you see a big cap stock in a certain theme moving like that, it's certainly something to have your eyes peeled on. And this is crypto. So this is crypto, as I said. Coin is about 13% of this ETF, and that's why it's pushed out this week. It's got it, as you can see on the weekly chart. There's going to be a few points of resistance here, but I'll be watching this carefully as well. And if we do get a kind of broader move within that crypto space, this will be a key name to hold as well. So yeah, certainly some really exciting moves. Momentum's in play at the moment with new highs in the NASDAQ. As I say, everyone's happy at new highs. Everyone's bored at the point that's lower than where the index is now. So everyone's a happy investor, and therefore you've kind of got momentum behind you, and things could really start moving. So as I said, I think the action over the next couple of weeks is going to be in those momentum names. I think the Aussie market's got to settle back in, and I'll be certainly watching the Asian market. So in particular, as I said, if Barber and Tencent can get moving, I mean the Hong Kong market's going to absolutely take off. Indian market seems to be in trend at the moment, so that's kind of the next point, is kind of 4% higher, where it hits that weekly that previous high on the weekly chart. And here you've got, as I said, the Aussie market, I think it's just going to not do a whole lot as an index, but we'll certainly be looking what's happening under within the different sectors. So obviously you've got ATech, not doing a whole lot. There's you've got your financials, and that's the sell-off with CBA on Friday. So as I said, interested to see if we do eventually start to see, with copper, a move back to base metals, and that'll be good for some parts of our market. So I think we've got a very exciting week ahead. As I said, keep a very close eye on Barber and Tencent and what happens in Hong Kong, and that could really get moving, particularly if Barber and Tencent get moving this week. So some really key growth ideas that we've got for our subscribers. So once again, if you're interested, you can sign up for a free trial on the website. You'll get 1 month free, and there's also and from there, then you can make a decision as to whether you want to be subscribed. But it's basically $10 a week, and as you can see, we're pretty comprehensive. We're looking at everything that's moving. We're not just looking at the big cap indexes. As I said, I don't think the Aussie market's going to give you much. The Nasdaq and S&P will probably eke out a bit more of a gain here with sheer momentum, but within those different markets, you might see something like Hack really take a move here. You've also got a way to try and play those AI themes with Robo Semi and AINF, and as I said, also with markets that people really don't have their eyes peeled on, which are going to be the huge movers of the future, like India and Hong Kong, and how to go about playing that with ETFs. So as I said, really exciting week ahead. I think we've got momentum to roll out for the next couple of weeks, and then we'll see what happens from there. But overall, very exciting time for ETF investors if you know where to look.